Hello, this is Janet Gallen welcoming you to Love Letters Live. And today's guest, I'm grinning, and I'm going to guess that you will be too, because we are going to be talking to Bob Flick, a member of Brothers Four. Bob, I'm just going to go right to you to say hello.
Well, all right. I appreciate it. Good morning. Hello. And it's nice to make your acquaintance here directly like this. It's a
Well,
pleasure.
I have so many questions. This is so personally exciting for me because although in my home we had only classical music,
Uh-huh.
there was folk music out there.
Yes.
And I guess we may be somewhat the same age because you started the group in 1957, and I
Yeah.
was I
Yeah.
was in high school then. I don't know where you were. You were in At what stage of your life did you start the group?
Uh, Janet, the Brothers Four started in college, University of Washington.
Oh, okay. So
And that
57
was the
you were
year.
in college.
Yeah, that's the year that we started college. We all met in the fraternity house, which is why the Brothers is part of the name.
Uh-huh.
And we just haven't stopped. I guess that's the
Okay.
best way to
So
put
I have about 350 questions. We don't have time
it.
for them all. At what point in your life did you know that you could open your mouth and music would come out? When did you first know
Very,
that you could sing worth listening to?
well, that's that's an assumption that you're making.
I know. We'll go with it. Okay.
I mean, in family times, and my mom and dad, bless them both, were interested in me learning to play, piano and music and things like that.
Yes.
And in school, in high school, I was an eager participant in the chorale and choir and
So it always came naturally to you.
always came naturally. And when I was a little guy, I began performing. I was doing little magic acts and record pantomime acts. And we had a USO troupe in Seattle. This is where this all happened. When I was a little kid, I mean, this is about 10, 12, 13, 14 years of age. We had an Elks Club sponsored USO troupe.
Oh, wow.
And we would go around to the Air Force and Navy and Army bases around the Northwest and put on little shows for all the troops coming through at that time to go through to the Korean theater. And so, I was doing stage stuff when I was 10, 11, 12 years old. So I kind of like being on the stage part.
Oh, good.
And then combine that with music later on was kind of fun. So that's how it all started.
So I read somewhere that you are, you know, the memories of it all are important to you. Can we
Absolutely.
talk about memories? Because I
Sure.
just want to say something that folk music was so huge in the 50s and 60s.
Yes.
And I have a feeling of why it just grabbed everyone. Tell me what you think its magic was,
Well, first of all,
and I'll tell you mine.
I just admire what you do on your messaging here with with your programming. That
Thank
it does deal with memories and
you.
the
Yes,
positive, the things that reinforce memories and that bring memories up. And this music that we do is memory music. There's no question about that.
it is now.
And we have no apologies for that at all. It is our pleasure to do this. We just did one of our first shows last weekend for a live audience, and I'll tell you, it's just great to be
The
back.
four of you.
Yes, ma'am.
You
Yeah,
know,
we
I went to look up something specific about you on Google today, and one of the questions was, are are the Brothers Four still alive?
yeah.
People wave and say
No,
yes.
I know that. I understand that.
Yes,
No,
okay.
that
So
was that wasn't me asking the question, by the way,
or any of your other
or
three.
any of the other guys.
Good
No.
point.
Well, to
Yeah.
get back to your memories of, back in we sort of emerged during what is called the folk revival time, and that was, as you said, late 50s and the 60s.
Why was it revival
Well, because
instead of
early on,
original?
well, this music of America goes way, way back to the
Yes.
beginning. And if you're familiar at all with, Pete Seeger and Woody Guthrie and Burl Ives and even John Lomax and his son Alan, who did that wonderful discovery work of traveling all around America with these.
So you're saying we can go back to the 40s and way before?
Yes, ma'am. All the way
Wow.
back to
Okay.
bringing the music in from Africa and from
Yes.
Europe.
Well,
And
yes.
so it's been part of the American story for a long time, and it's been shaped into a very unique part of American musical history. And there's the Great American Songbook. We call it the
Yes.
Great American Folk Songbook.
I have that sitting right on my piano. Yes.
There you go.
Uh-huh.
So that's where the memories come from. And in the 50s and 60s, the Weavers in particular, if you remember them, the
remember you all.
orchestrator, uh, uh, they became popularizers of this music. It became part of pop music, the Goodnight Irene,
Yes.
and So Long It's Been Good to Know You, and On Top of Old Smoky. Those became hit songs again.
So I understand what you're saying. So that when we talk about folk music,
yeah,
as far as American folk music, that goes way back. I mean, My Darling Clementine, wouldn't that count?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And that was, I see. Okay.
Yeah. And
what do you think the draw of it was? What did it do for people?
Well, there was a time in the music landscape in America that was just right for us to sort of re-listen to this music again. This is just after kind of pop music was around. Remember, there was the Johnny Mathis and Perry Como and
whatever.
And then came a little rock and roll stuff with Bill Haley and the Comets, and then doo-wop. And then there was a period of time there in the late 50s when this folk music came in. Everybody was singing Goodnight Irene. And then here came the Brothers Four and the Kingston Trio. And then suddenly, 2 years later, Peter, Paul, and Mary. Mm-hmm. Folk music had there's this little moment, this opening, where it caught everybody's attention, especially young people in college and high school. And we learned as young people, because that's where we came from. We just stepped out of the audience onto the stage, really. We learned how to play a guitar, and in my case, the bass, and express ourselves through this music and communicate through this music. And look at Bob Dylan. He took it to the extreme of he learned how to use the music and the form into creating new expressions of these.
So that kind of brings to mind another question, or a tangential question.
Sure.
Where's the line between American folk music and other things, like you're mentioning doo-wop? I remember when Shaboom first came out.
Sure, yeah.
And that was just so wonderful. And so is folk music popular music plus time?
Interesting. It could be called that.
Why isn't that part of our folk music narrative, the doo-wop and the...
Well, the doo-wop and, as you said, novelty records like Shaboom and those were created in the music business of the time. There was a place called the Brill Building in New York, right, where Carole King wrote songs and Jerry Boffin wrote songs, all these hit songs. Well, the folk music songs came out of a little different source, and everybody felt like they could participate in them and sing along like.
Thank you. Okay, so
and be a part of the process.
Yes. Okay. I'm glad that you're drawing that distinction, because what I remember is, first of all, the stories they told.
Sure, absolutely.
It's all storytelling, but the stories they told were what? They were important. They carried hope. They were expressing the joy that you would find in spreading love and peace.
Yeah. And there was a lot of hope, as you said. And one particular part of it, there was some criticism and protest carried into these songs too, especially.
For sure.
Yeah. So that became, folk music sometimes for some people is totally a whole era of protest songs about political movements. Participating in Vietnam, for example.
Right, so it got to that.
Yes, it included that. Yes, so folk music itself has everything from troubadours to protests to silly songs to romantic songs to very poignant songs. I mean, I'm not sure you can listen to a song like Scarlet Ribbons if you're a mom and have it not touch you.
Well, right. Or, and I was thinking that most of them that I recall, like quickly, if I'm to think about them, most of them were cheerful, except for Tom Dooley.
Yeah, for some reason.
That was horrible.
For some reason, his terrible tale became a big hit. So.
Right.
Yeah, there was lots of fun and enjoyment and sing along, joy. that's a part of what we do too. Is, I mean, I'll tell you what, after about 10 or 15 minutes into our 2 hour concert, everybody has sort of settled down in their seat and they're singing along. You
Okay,
know,
so
that's
that's,
the
yes,
joy. That is just a pleasure to hear that.
that's another thing. And you can't get that in a heavy metal concert.
Well, you do. I mean, in some
Sing along.
lots of pop show. Oh, so look at Bruno Mars. He'll stop the show and just put the mic out and let the audience finish the
Okay.
song. You know, so
I wasn't aware of that. That's nice.
a real fan of anybody knows they know the material.
I guess
and
that's right. I guess
they'll
that's
join
right.
in.
Yes.
Yeah, but folk songs, you'll find people saying, you know, I kind of remember that from my dad and mom playing that. So yeah, now I remember that part of the Michael Row the Boat Ashore. I think I'll sing along or whatever.
Well,
So
okay, so that's singing along. I mean, there was such a thing as a sing along. It was an activity of its own, but
absolutely.
also the tunes,
Yeah.
the music of the folk songs, as I recall, were not only cheerful, they were simple enough
Yes.
and within a range that we could all join in.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It made it easy.
Yeah. The harmonies are simple and the chord structures are simple and the emotions, the thoughts usually are eloquently, simply expressed. Doesn't mean they're not serious in some cases.
Oh, I understand that. Yes.
But simply expressed. And yeah, that's what drew us to the music was just, I mean, it was easy to learn. And we found the four of us, the four original guys, just were compatible enough and interested enough in this to sing along. And, you know, when we go to Japan, for example, the audience there sings along with us too. It's quite
that's not surprising.
Quite astounding. Yeah.
Now, my question is, let's talk about your performance now. You've been performing all along.
That's right. That's right. This is
worldwide.
It's our 60th year anniversary celebration.
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Yes. And people still come to hear you because what you're singing about is still relevant.
Well, yes, it is. It's, as you mentioned earlier, Janet, it's memories. Usually it's wonderful memories of family or school days or a particular relationship.
Well, that's true for the older of us.
Yeah. But nobody comes up and says, you know, you reminded me of that time when it was the worst day of my life. No, they all come up and say, you know, those memories are just great. Thanks for taking me back to the family dinner when my dad would play that album or something.
Oh, so another really good point that you're touching on. Thanks for taking me back. And for those who are older, you take us back to our, I think for many people, our strongest and most vibrant years.
Could be.
Yes.
Could be. Are you talking about just family or college or just starting out?
When older people hear music now, them back to their strongest time. You know, music. I mean, the sound music is one of the most, oh my goodness, strongest memory triggers. You
know, and you've talked to people on your guests have talked about the healing qualities of music and the fact that it can reach way back.
Yes,
and we've seen that too. We've gone on. Occasionally, we'll be able to visit a facility where there are people recovering from memory loss or just enduring. And I'll tell you what, it is so thrilling to see people just come alive when a song touches them.
I'm gonna cry.
And this is true. They'll stand up and sing along 500 miles or whatever it is. And it reaches, it communicates. There's no question about that. Whether you realize it or just feel it, it really happens.
It stays in there forever, doesn't it?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I know stories myself of people. Well, my husband had an Aunt Lil who was almost 100. She couldn't remember anything. I mean, she was severely afflicted with Alzheimer's. She knew nothing, but she would sit down at the piano and all of Shostakovich would come out at her fingertips.
My goodness.
I know. So there is that. Yes. Do you have a favorite place that you've ever performed, or you wouldn't even call a favorite?
Many places, I think.
Yes, I guess.
I think we have to say that Asia, certain parts, particularly in Japan, has become a favorite place for us. I think we have the honor of being the people who took that music first to that part of the world. And in China and Japan and Hong Kong and Thailand, and so we have very strong followings. And we just did to see not last year. There was no last year, right?
That's right.
The year before,
Right. There was no
our
last year.
I think it was our 52nd tour of Japan that we took in
Oh
2019.
my goodness.
And so we've had people grow up with us there and the music, just like here. And we'll probably go back again next year now that the Olympics are finished and all of that sort of turmoil is done over there.
Right.
They're starting to get a handle on on the pandemic and everything. So
So
right now,
you haven't been able to safely travel for the last year and a half, I'm
no,
guessing.
we haven't. There's been no. I mean, we're in the crowd business, right? And
That's right.
there's no crowd. So we are just beginning to look at bookings right now in the next month or two, certainly through the end of this year. A few things coming up, so that's exciting. And then I think in next year things will be back in order a little bit. But it still you have to be cautious. You have to be careful, and you have to respect other people, and hopefully make the right decision for yourself and your family, and take care of each other. That's
now people can still get your music. We can download your songs for sure.
Yes, that's right.
There's almost no such thing as a record store anymore, right?
You know what? There's not. There's no Tower Records. Well, in Japan there is.
Good.
They still buy things like CDs and things in Japan, but here it's all streaming.
That's right.
Downloading, and
so people who are interested can find you.
Yeah. It's on Amazon and Apple Music and Spotify and all those places. Just push the button and
yes,
there we are.
was that an odd thing to you and your group to make that leap into very, very high-tech modern life?
Yeah, not too bad. We have some really good advisors and friends and compatriots that help us with that. And we're an acoustic group, so
yes,
we just go on making our little sounds into the microphones, and people bring them to the market however they choose.
So you don't have to bother with that.
Well, we're participants in it, and we say yes or no to certain things to do, but we have some good people running it for us, so that's great. Yeah.
That's good. Okay. Now, are you? Well, I guess in the memory business, it's not necessary that you write new songs, but are you ever tempted to do that?
Everybody's writing. All of our guys now, the current members of the group. I'm the remaining original member of the group still. And the other guys they've been with me now in the group for the last probably couple of decades.
Oh wow.
Who knew that we could throw the term decade around?
Yes, I know. Oh, good point. Yes.
They're all really skilled writers and performers on their own. And once in a while we'll do one of their songs. But for the most part, when we do a Brothers 4 concert, we have sort of a list of songs that we know people expect to hear.
That's what people want.
And it is an absolute pleasure to do that. It's not drudgery to do it. And these guys, the guys now, Mark and Mike and Carl, have great respect for the legacy of the music, which I greatly appreciate. And nobody says, "Oh, do we have to do that song again?" No, because
good.
The chances are, and the really high percentage chances are, that audience on that night, maybe it's the first time they've seen us live. Right? So why not approach it like opening night? And if you keep that in mind, everything remains fresh. And I'll tell you, there's no perfect concerts, like a game of golf. Everyone is a little bit different. The audiences all react a little bit differently. And if you're kind of aware of that, it's a very pleasurable experience.
When you go into a concert, do you have in your head like what would be the dream audience, like what you would hope to find?
Well, sure. I mean, every audience really turns out to be the dream audience because we react to them and we find that maybe they like to sing along with more ballads than up songs. So we'll change. We'll do Shenandoah a little earlier in the show than we normally would, for example, and we'll do Yellowbird or we'll do Green Leaves of Summer, things like that people remember and can sing along with. And so we kind of tune to the audience a little bit in that regard.
It is just huge. I was curious whether you were in any way the model for that wonderful Christopher Guest.
Oh my goodness. The Mighty Wind is such a great movie.
Wasn't that? I mean, I think that's so often I could listen to that whole thing.
You know, when they do the folkmen, you know, their trio, they
yes.
wear those ascots, like that's because we used to wear ascots
That's
during.
what I was asking. Were you in any way a model for some of these?
I'm afraid so.
Oh, good.
But
Oh,
actually, I know, Janet, I know a couple people, they'll be nameless right now, but a couple of people in the business, professional members of certain groups who really didn't like the movie. They thought it was insulting that someone was toying with and making, and oh my God, it was just the most, it was a very tender treatment.
I thought so too. And if you can't laugh at yourself.
No, but look at the love story at the end
Yeah.
with Mickey and I mean, come on.
Right. Right.
And that song was nominated, you know, for an Oscar, you know.
And by the way, the songs in that movie are gorgeous.
Yeah.
Oh, when the veil of, oh, never mind, is lifted. Okay, this isn't about that particular, but I'm glad you liked that movie. Yeah, I'm glad that you were the model for it. Yes.
Yeah, it's fun.
Something, since I am partly about love letters.
Yes, you are.
No.
Partly, and you should be.
Thank you. I mean, we're kind of the same age, and we grew up writing letters. Were you a letter writer when you were young?
Yeah, I was. I communicated with the love of my life, who is now my wife. Early on, when we first met, I communicated a lot with letters and notes from all around, from cities and countries and everywhere.
And when did you first meet? How did you meet your wife?
We met in 1963.
Oh, you've been together a long time.
No, we haven't been together that long.
Oh, you met that long. Okay.
Yes. And we were, among the many things that the Brothers Ford did, we did several movie songs, you know, theme songs. And one of them was the theme song from a movie called 55 Days at Peking. It was a William Holden and Ava Gardner, wonderful movie about that story in So the premiere was held in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, right in the middle of America. And we were there to just say hello. And she was a part of the photo session that came up. The photographers all said, well, if we have a pretty young girl in the picture, bringing the album to sign and getting autographed, they'll most likely use the picture in the newspapers. So that's how we met. And
smart.
We remained friends for a long time from that point. And then travels and things got all around the world, and we lost touch for a while. And then in about 18 years ago or so, she was coming through Seattle, which was hometown. And our office was there, and she called the office and said, just checking in to see how things are going. I saw you guys on the PBS show, you know, This Land Is Your Land, those folk music shows.
Yes, yes.
Oh, I'd check in. And so we had dinner, and we've been married now for 13 years.
Oh, how lovely. And so you did write letters to her.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's my question. You know, I always want to know if people like what counts for a love letter in your life, and you definitely qualify.
Yeah. These were notes and letters, both, you know.
Yes.
So,
in your handwriting.
Oh, yeah.
Does she still have them? Do you know?
I think so. Yeah.
You know, one of the nice things I'm thinking about when you write to the love of your life, your wife, is that most people keep these letters. So you get to look years later, you get to look at them.
Yeah. She's kept lots of things like that.
Yes. Does she ever write to you?
She did, but I was never in one place very much to receive letters, you know. So
yes.
that was one of the challenges of if you can imagine a relationship.
Have you ever written to yourself?
You mean like in a diary format or something?
Oh, good question. No, I mean actual letters to yourself.
No, I haven't done that.
I just want to mention how happy I am that you yada da da da, and you put it in an envelope and you mail it to yourself.
That's interesting. No, I've never done that. I might.
And then when you read it, you will see that the you who wrote it and the you who reads it are probably two different people.
Very interesting, Janet. I'll try that. Thank you.
But you know, if people were to do that once a month, and I don't do it either, but you know, at the end of a year, you have quite a record of your own history in your own hand.
Good idea. Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds like a book, doesn't it?
Well, yes, it does.
You can make a book like Dear Self.
Right. I mean, for you, it sounds like a book because you're somebody that's recognizable and, people want to know about. Well, I want to thank you for doing this with me today.
Well, you're welcome. Let
I,
me give me a moment. I'll write you a quick thank you letter.
Perfect. I'm just so happy to be in the company of somebody who was part of the world that carried so many of my own memories. I remember camp counselors. I can picture what they wore as they were strumming and leading us in songs.
Yeah. So where were you growing up, Janet? What part of
LA.
the world? Yeah. I was Seattle, and
yes.
Now here, Southern California. So
I mean, our overnight camp was Hollywoodland.
there you go.
And, it doesn't matter. Wherever we went were those songs.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to meet somebody who was a part of that. Thank you, dear.
Thank you. My pleasure. It's great to meet you too, and continued good luck and success with bringing all of these interesting people and outlooks and points of view to us all, as you do. Thank you for that.
Human spirit. It's great.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, we'll say goodbye for now. And if there's ever anything else you want to talk about, let me know and come back for another Love Letters.
Anytime. We'll do it.
And maybe your wife would like to have a chance to do this and reply to Love Letters from you.
Maybe we can corral her into some memories.
If she would, let me know. Okay. So for now, I'll just say goodbye and thank you.
Yeah, bye. Thank you. And you be safe out there, and we'll see you.
You too.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Bye-bye.